All right, so I'm on my way to work, and I just thought of something I wanted to share with y'all. I remember the last thing I left you with was I figured some things out, whatever, sorting through some things, and what I wanted to, you know, the hardest part to conquer is like sticking to the plan instead of, trying to predict the future or trying to come up with a strategy that make you right more than often. So my thing I said I was gonna stick to was capping my losses and taking my gains. And I wanted to show you two major things I learned this weekend. First, I'm gonna go back to Sunday night, 'cause that's where it started. So opened up Sunday at 5 p.m., which would be about right here if I'm not mistaken. So let me see. Today is Tuesday the 8th, so September the 6th, yeah. So what happened was, first thing I learned, position sizing. So what I mean by position sizing is this. Let's just say if we were, the farthest I could see is right here, right? And off the top of my head, I'm thinking it's going up. It may go up, within the next 8 hours, 4 hours, 2 hours, whatever. But I'm going to say it's going up 10 pips. Well, the first thing I would do was the first thing I would do would be to say, all right, 10 pips is my goal. So quite naturally, 5 pips. Well, hold up, let me back up a step, because if I'm going long term, I'm gonna say something more like 20 pips. So I'm gonna say if I think it's going up 20 pips, I don't think it's going no lower than 10 pips. That's a 2-to-1 ratio. Well, what I would normally do is I would even go lower than that. I would say if I think it can go 10 pips down, I'm going to place my entry 10 pips below that. So it'll be 20 pips from where we at. And then I would say, 3-to-1. I think it's going to go 30 pips up from 10 pips down from here, which would be 20 from where we at. So anyway, I would check my position size to make sure the maximum I'm willing to lose, which would be 0.5 or 1%, something like that. And I would base it on that move. So if we scan forward from the top of that candle right here, that white one, 10 pips would be 35. So once it hit 35, boom, it would have got me in. Then I would have went 10 pips below that, which would have been 25. And I would have got stopped out. And as simple as that, I would have lost my 500 if I was going 1%, or 250 if I was going 0.5. But now let me tell you something else right here. When I got to this range yesterday, I felt like it was going to stay in this range. So instead of saying I'm going 20 pips up or 10 pips down or vice versa, I was saying I only think it's going to go 5 pips up. So what's half of 5? 2.5. I rounded up to 3. So if it goes down 3 points, let's say if it start trading in this range and I think it's going back up, I say if it goes 3 points, let me lose my 500 there or my 250 there. And if I'm right, let's just say if it did break out more than 5 pips, let's say if it broke out like 10 pips, I'm going to make twice as much money as I set out to. So like I said, reiterating, the first thing that I'm trying to make sure you know is to check position sizes, because when I started Sunday night, I was at a fantasy football draft. I had my girl there. All my coworkers had their girls there. And needless to say, by the time the market opened, I wasn't paying attention. So what I did was my first trade, let me find it, September 6th. Mind you, this is after me saying I'm going to be more responsible or whatever. Right here, my first trade, $900 loss. Way more than I would have allowed myself to lose. And the reason why I lost that, because like I said, drinking. Just to give you an idea, I was so, I ain't going to say drunk. I wasn't drunk. I just hadn't had enough sleep and I was drinking. I went to use the restroom and fell asleep in the bathroom. They was looking for me for like an hour or two, because the stalls are like locked, like private stalls. So they finally found me after I woke up from my nap. But I wasn't throwing up, I wasn't doing stupid shit. So I was like drinking is what put me to sleep. But like I said, I made that $900 loss literally in my sleep. And I was cool with the movement that caused me to lose. I forgot to check my position size. So, you know how when I find out that my position size was off, was not even on that loss. It's on the next trade. When I made 1,300, I said to myself, how did I make that much? It only went up like 5 pips or something. Then I realized my position size was like 20 units. And I'm like, oh, that's way too high. So I switched it. Next trade was small. And I don't think I started trading again until Monday. So the first trade of the day was that $289 loss, which was me making sure my position size was right and being wrong. Cool, I lost. Next trade, I only planned on making 500. I was risking 500 to make 250. I was risking 250 to make 500, and it went up to 800, so I took it. Next trade, out in that $156 gain, I was up like 500. And I should have just took it, but my mind thinking, what if I get another 800? Before it could go up to 800, it came down to 156. So I just took it. I wanted to get a gain. Then I increased my position size to risk 1% because I just made 800. I don't want to risk 0.5, which is 250. I risk 500 because I'm up. So I lost 500. I was like, cool, let me reduce my position size a little bit. Lost 300, cool. Lost 250, cool. Like, I'm cool with losing, because I'm telling you, I'm not worried about my losses. I'm worried about being right more than I'm wrong and making more when I'm right than when I'm wrong. So right after that, made a 1% gain, risking 250. Cool. I was on that $300. I was up, but I didn't take the 500. It started coming back down. I said, I cut it at 300. Cool. I take that gain. Then I was up 5. I probably was up again, but it kept, instead of taking the 500 that I'm right, I try to, that 800 kind of got in my head. But the thing that I'd be saying is, if you're up, go ahead and gamble. What's the worst you're going to do is make less than you would have. No big deal. But when you down, don't do that. When you down, do not play with it. Just cut it. Don't try to see if it's going to come back in your favor. So then same thing with the $30. I went ahead and took it to make sure it didn't go in the loss range. Made another 280, made 300, made 50. And I'm going down slow because there's a good point where I'm going to get to where I want to explain the second thing I learned. Because at some point I was up like $1,300 on this day. Yep, kept going. And right here. Nope, that was just a regular loss. And I think after that loss, I was like, you know what? I was up 1,300. Somehow I might have been, I was up something. And then when I got here, I was still up like $700 or $800. And I was like, you know what? I'm done for the day. I just made a decent amount. I'll come back tomorrow. My whole thing is discipline. And when you see these two trades right here, $971 loss, $1,960 loss, that was not because I wasn't being disciplined. I see my trade size as 18, and that was on purpose. I wanted it to be that big because the play I was looking for was like somewhere between 2 and 5 pips. I wanted to stay in the trade for a tiny little bit of time and either lose my 250 real fast or make it my 500 real quick. Well, this is what I didn't realize. I'm gonna take you to another screen. You see this quote? Look at the top number, the euro yen. On the left hand side, it says 124.74.9. On the right hand side, it says 124. Well, you see it's moving, but the more of the story is they are about a penny and a tenth of a penny difference. That's the spread. So the left hand side, I'll make it easier. Hold up. Let me hit. Hold up. Trade. If I wanted to sell, I would have to sell at 76.5. If I wanted to buy, I would have to buy on the right hand side. So what does this mean? Well, if you sell first, you got to buy it back. You want to sell at a high price and buy it back cheaper. You want to buy at a cheap price and sell it higher. So right now, if I were to sell right at 77, the most I can buy it back for is 78. I would have to take a loss instantly. on the contrary, if I wanted to sell at 78, if I wanted to buy at 78.7, the most I could sell it back for instantly is at a lower price, which is an instant loss. So that means every time you open a trade, the moment you open that trade, you're always going to be at a loss. Always. It's just built in. That's how the market makes their money. That's how the market makers and people make their money. Well, what I did not do before I entered those trades, because it was like that $900 loss was worse than it looked. As soon as I opened that trade, I was down like $2,000, and luckily for me, it came up to a $900 loss. Whereas had the spread not been so big, I probably would have made $1,000 or so in that moment, and I saw it developing. What I learned was, before you make a trade, check the spread, because if that number on the left is 75 and the number on the right is 85, and you trading at like $100 a pip, you instantly down a stack as soon as you open that trade. And it was Monday morning when I made those trades, if I'm not mistaken. I had just woke up. I was looking at the market for like 3 minutes, and I was like, oh, I see the move happening. Let me dip in real quick and dip out. The reason why the market was moving so fast is because it was like low volume. There wasn't a lot of activity, but I didn't take that extra step to make sure, the spread went wide. Well, I learned my lesson. So that's why I didn't trade for the rest of the day Monday. Didn't trade all day today, because my account dropped from like 50,000 to 48, just that fast. So it's all good. One, this is a practice account. Two, I'm starting over fresh next week anyway. But at least I learned that lesson this time, so I won't backfire on me another time. I just want to take a couple minutes to throw that out there. So y'all boys be